This is the DallasCowboys.com Draft Show. Your war room for insider news and draft analysis from deep within the confines of Cowboys headquarters at the Star in Frisco.
The Dallas Cowboys select C.D. Lamb, wide receiver.
And now, your hosts, Brian Broaddus, David Hellman, Bucky Brooks, and Kyle Yeomans.
It's a wonderful Tuesday edition of the DallasCowboys.com Draft Show as we are just 44 days away from the NFL Draft, getting into crunch time, closing in on a month until the draft as we're in the middle of March for this episode of the Draft Show. Glad you're with us. Kyle Yeomans, Brian Broaddus, Bucky Brooks, and the great David Hellman. As always, our usual Tuesday crew, 10 a.m. Central Time. Glad you're with us live, streaming coast to coast and around the world on DallasCowboys.com. However, Brian, I mentioned it's crunch time. It's also free agency time. Is this the most hectic part of the year, maybe month of the year, these last 45 days or so leading up into the draft? Because not only are you looking for draft prospects, but you're trying to fill holes with free agencies. I just want to know what it's like in scouting departments and front offices around this time of year, because I'm sure it's madness. March Madness, probably, per se.
Yeah, no, it is, and it can be a very difficult time, and you have to be able to budget your time, and especially with the Dallas Cowboys situation. I remember many a day, working on the pro side of things, and then we, myself and staff, meeting with Jerry and Stephen Jones, and then the head coaches about free agency during draft meetings and things like that. So yeah, it was a lot of work, a lot of buildup, and these opening days, this tampering period stuff. I mean, we've seen a lot of signings already, a lot of guys taking off the street, and so that makes it very, very difficult now to. Do you have a plan? What is your plan? Is your plan to say, okay, we were going to be players in day 3, day 4, day 5, whatever, a week now, 2 weeks from now. So everybody, you'll see teams sticking to your plans. Teams like New England, obviously have gone out. They said, listen, we weren't good enough last year. Go out and make a bunch of signings. But that's, some teams operate in different ways. But yeah, it's very, very hectic because you're really planning for two things. You're trying to prepare your draft boards and things like that, and then you're also trying to have your pro free agency board and then make sure that those two things marry for you.
Bucky, what is that process like, and what are some of your experiences whenever it comes to the overlap of the draft process and then free agency as well?
I think Brian will tell you very early in the process, what you do is you try and assess where the draft is strong and where it's weak at. And if you can have that conversation in January or immediately either before the combine or right after the combine, it then allows you to put a plan in place for free agency. So with the Cowboys, we talk about defensive tackles and being able to look at the draft and say, hey, not many defensive tackles. If we're going to get a guy inside, we may need to go early and heavy in free agency and see what is there. And then at some of the other positions, you're seeing a lot of wide receivers that are just kind of languishing out there. I believe it's because you have teams that are looking at the free agent market and saying, why overpay for a pass catcher when I can get one of these young guys on the cheap in the draft? And so it's the constant compare and contrast between what is available in the draft, what's available in the free agent market, and your scouts are all working together to kind of figure out what's the best plan for the team to go forward.
Dave.
All right, so thank y'all both for not making the joke, because I was dying to make the joke. I mean, how hectic and stressful it is probably depends on who you work for, don't you think? Because there's a lot more activity in some front offices than others this week, if I may be so bold.
Yeah, the first axiom of warfare is know the enemy, and I think we know the enemy here. Yeah, it's ourselves.
That's a good point.
Yeah, I do think so. I love what Bucky said, and it's not rocket science, but I am fascinated when the Cowboys do eventually get around to signing some players, whenever that may be. I'm interested to see what direction they go. what does this team need? We know. They need, shout out to Brian as the Philadelphia Eagles GM back in the day.
Go to YouTube and watch me answer that same question for you in 1998.
We need, the fans know. Y'all know what we need. The Cowboys need defensive backs. They need some beef in the interior defensive line. They need some offensive tackle depth, et cetera, et cetera. So how do they address that here? I'd love to say today, but it's probably more like over the next week or two. But, do they look to beef up defensive tackle? I honestly think that would be a great idea because, this is not a strong defensive tackle class, at least not at the top of the draft. Unfortunately, a guy that a lot of people really love, Dalvin Tomlinson's already off the board. I don't think it was ever realistic to think he was going to sign with the Cowboys. But, man, the deal he got in Minnesota was not earth-shattering.
It was not ludicrous or anywhere close to what anybody thought it could be. It was just 2 years, $22 million, and everybody kind of looked around and said, why couldn't we do that?
Yeah, more or less.
Yeah, it's funny. I was talking to a guy with the Giants on the way home from my radio show yesterday, and I asked him, I said, what do you think the market is for Dalvin Tomlinson? He says he's going to get somewhere between $10 and $13 million. And I said, well, the Cowboys are out then. There's no way. Sure. And then he signs basically for $11 million. The Cowboys were never going to play in that game. And, the more that you talk to the people in the front office, and Dave's right and Bucky's right, I mean, you know what the Cowboys are going to do. Stephen Jones, after the Dak Prescott during the press conference, he was talking about the draft and how to prepare and how much confidence he has in Will McClay and those guys. He was setting you down that road. And the more you talk to him, it's like all this cap space that they have. It's like, well, guys, we've got other things we have to take care of. Restricted tenders. They have to take care of things with the practice squad. I mean, there's money they want to carry over for things that certain things they've already earmarked. So if you're a fan, you're looking at cap space for the Cowboys, you're thinking, all right, they go get a guy. But to them, it's like that money is already spent. We see it, but they've already spent it. So that's the way they operate. And, if a week from now there's somebody still lingering out there, maybe that's where they jump in. But they're not going to be spenders in this thing initially like what we've seen the New England Patriots do the last couple of days.
And for the record, I do not want the Cowboys to behave like the Patriots. I don't think they need to do that. I think that's reckless. The Patriots are doing this because
reckless. Reckless.
Absolutely. No, it's absolutely. Find me the team that has set the pace for most money spent in free agency and tell me how they did and tell me how those contracts worked out. The Patriots are doing this because they don't have any talent on their roster. They how many guys do the Patriots have as a starter right now? I mean, the answer is different now because they signed all these good players. But coming into this week, how many blue chip players did they have? They haven't drafted that well. They're going to get some guys back from COVID opt-outs. Dante Hightower's a good player. Stephon Gilmore's a good player. Mm-hmm. But they're a talent poor team, in my opinion, and that's why they're doing that. Having said that, we've done this a million times. I'm tired of saying it. The Cowboys need to find a better balance. Going back to the press conference from last week, Brian, Jerry Jones also said, anything I've ever gotten that was worth the money, I overpaid for. And anytime I ever thought I was getting a bargain, that's exactly what I was getting, which the irony there is pretty palpable, saying that a week before free agency opens, knowing that the Cowboys are bargain hunters in free agency.
Yeah, he was talking about guys he drafted like Tyron Smith and Zach Martin and Amari Cooper and people. Well, he didn't draft Amari Cooper; he traded for Amari Cooper. Yeah. But yeah, I mean, your point is right, Dave. They really, the Cowboys don't have that balance. Stephen Jones, and there was an era where I was working for the team where we spent like drunken sailors because we were so bad at drafting. We were just terrible at drafting, and you have to supplement your misses. You're right. You have to find a roster. The problem with the Patriots is that they're lacking at the most important position, and that's quarterback.
Sure.
So they'll probably address that during the draft. But yeah, I think that you have to have balance, and the Cowboys really don't. They believe in free agency as signing their own. Mm-hmm. That's their philosophy. They look at Dak Prescott as one of the best free agent signings in the history of the National Football League. That's how they view that right now. Everybody else is like, oh, you're just signing your own. But they look at it as like, this guy had a chance. This guy could have got to free agency. We signed him. That's just how those guys operate.
Now,
I also think, Kyle, I think it's important to note, like, sometimes you want to be a little slower to the party so you don't overpay. Because remember, the leverage flips after 72 hours. Yeah. If you're a player, if you haven't signed a deal within the first 72 hours, now it's like musical chairs, because now you're worried, the big money's gone. I just got to sign the best deal that I can find. And if you're a team who can target a handful of players where okay, they may slip through the cracks, there are some deals to be made that will help the team. And we can talk about Dalvin Tomlinson. Mm-hmm. I'm not paying $11 million for a nose tackle that doesn't really rush the passer. Like, it's one of those things like, we need to stop the run and do those things, but you don't want to overpay for that, because especially coming off the heels of Dontari Poe and Gerald McCoy and those guys, I think there's a little snake. They've been snake bit because they spent money last year and they didn't get anything out of the position. I think they want to avoid that.
So I'm really glad you said that, Bucky, because Dave and Brian are talking about this balance between free agency and the draft, and it's a tightrope you have to walk as a front office. Is there ever any frustration from either side? Because you have the pro scouting department, you have the collegiate scouting department, you have both sides of that coin, and you have to walk the line between the two. Is there ever frustration or any kind of tension between the two sides, Bucky, whenever these kind of conversations are hitting the table and you're kind of finally getting to crunch time around this part of the year?
It depends on the background of the decision maker. If the decision maker comes from the collegiate side, he's more apt to listen to the college scouts. He's more likely to take an approach that is a draft and develop, homegrown approach. If it's a guy that may have spent most of his time on the pro side, he may feel like he has a better handle on free agents and how to fill them in to the gap. There's a lot of that, like where you come from, you're going to have some natural biases. Hopefully what you can do is have very constructive conversations where you figure out, hey, what is best for what we need right now? Do we need to go in the draft? Do we need to go in free agency? But it can be contentious. It can be a little acrimonious.
Yeah, well, Bucky, you better love me as a pro guy, because I'm getting you compensatory picks when these, when these guys, when we trade for Robert Quinn, and he gets 11.5 sacks, and then we get you, a third, fourth round pick to help you draft.
Who did the pick turn into?
We don't know yet.
We don't know. It's one for this draft.
So hit me back when we figure out who.
Hey, I got you the pick for I got you the pick at 4. I got you the pick at 4/135. You took Prescott. Nice job on that one. Good job. So it's all good there.
That's a good one.
Yeah, that's signing.
Hey, I will say this. I'll say this, Kyle, real quick, and I know I'm never quick, but I'll say this quick. They're in a situation right now. Will McClay and those pro guys had a bad offseason last year.
Yeah, they did.
They had a bad offseason. And that's Will McClay's baby right there. That's his area of expertise. He coordinates what they do in all the scouting. I think his area of expertise, though, is the pro side of things and where he came from. Yeah, those guys had a bad offseason. And, I don't think it's a thing that stings them, but you also got to give them credit for what I was talking about with Robert Quinn. They saw, Chris Greer down in Miami, new GM. They saw a bad scheme fit for a player. They made a trade. This is where, if I'm the Cowboys, that I do take what compensatory picks we got and maybe target somebody else's team, and instead of getting guys that are out there on free agency, maybe you say, okay, I'll give you this 3rd round pick compensatory. I'll give you this 4th round pick. I'll give you this 5th round pick that I got, in order to try and facilitate of trading for a guy maybe that is established, that you're like, okay, this guy, we could plug him in immediately. The Cowboys need to get back to doing things that way more so than the Dontari Poes and the Gerald McCoys, that if you watch them play, they look like they're 2-3 years removed from how good they once were.
When you look at the Cowboys front office, and there's this, like you said, kind of the split between the pro and the college, and I don't know if have you guys remembered a year where there is such a pro and collegiate split as there was in 2020? Because I'm trying to look back, and I don't think I have one, because the draft was so highly touted. You ended up bringing in 3 or 4 longtime starters for the Cowboys, and then you turn around and, like you said, you sign 5 or 6 guys that you think are going to be somewhat potential starters, and they don't even make it out of training camp. Clinton Dix, Dontari Poe, even Gerald McCoy, if you want to talk about the injury. Those 3 guys didn't even make it out of training camp without really making an impact. And I know Poe played, but he never really made an impact at any point throughout the season.
Poe was here for half a year. He just
but was he really here
from looking at the box score?
Exactly.
No.
Was he really
no,
here?
I agree with you.
Not so much. But has there ever been a split, Dave, whenever it comes to those 2 sides like there was a year ago? And can the Cowboys afford to do that again?
I mean, last year was an extreme example because the draft was so good and free agency was so bad. But I'd say that's kind of been the story of the Cowboys over the last 7 or 8 years. Yeah. Obviously, that's where my expertise is going to lie because that's who I cover 365 days a year. But, yeah, I mean, this is a team that has drafted much better than most over the last at least 6 or 7 years, and they just don't do a ton in free agency. I mean, honestly, in the time that I've covered the team, their far and away best free agency acquisition was probably Jeremy Mincy. Who, nice guy, solid role player on a couple of good teams, but if that's the best that you're doing for me, that's not good. And that's kind of my point is, even teams that build through the draft find ways to add premium talent through free agency. I bring it up all the times. I know Howie Roseman's in hot water right now. I know the Eagles look like a garbage fire right now, but they made a handful of amazing moves in free agency to help build that roster into a team that eventually won the Super Bowl. You know, Malcolm Jenkins was a free agency acquisition, Rodney McLeod, Tim Jernigan, which, to Brian's point, that was a trade that brought a quality young player onto an already good defensive line. Like I said, you got to find a balance. I don't want them to set the market in terms of money spent, but rubbing quarters together, trying to turn it into a quality roster, clearly that doesn't work either. We've seen it many, many times.
Well, Tampa did it this past year in the Super Bowl. If you look at what they drafted really well on defense, but you add in Ndamukong Suh, guys like that, that makes a difference for your team.
Yeah, and that Tom Brady guy that they signed at free agency helps out a lot as well.
Tom Brady is obviously the ultimate outlier, but Shaquille Barrett was a free agency acquisition as well.
Right. Oh yeah,
he was playing second fiddle to Von Miller for a few years, and now he's a big money guy. I think he's got 30 sacks in 2 years with the Bucs. Yeah, free agency acquisition.
Wow. Yeah, I mean that's a perfect example.
But I think that also comes down to scheme fit because Shaq Barrett in 3 or 4 years with the Broncos had 14.5 sacks. Who would imagine that he would come to Tampa in his first year have 19.5? That's partially the numbers being inflated a little bit by playing with Todd Bowles and Todd Bowles creating these blitzes to have one-on-one opportunities. But that's all a part of the deal. And if the coaches and the scouting staffs are in lockstep and they are able to clearly get on the same page with here's what we need, here's how we're going to play him, this is why he's going to be effective for us, it can work.
It can work. And specifically with kind of keeping that balance between free agency and the draft, I kind of want to get you guys' opinion on positions of need for the Cowboys that are better suited to go after in free agency rather than the draft. Because, I mean, we've been talking about corner, safety, defensive line, interior defensive line, specifically for the Cowboys on the show throughout really the 40 episodes or whatever we're at this very moment. However, there's still a long way to go in free agency side of things. So, Brian, when you look at both the free agency class and the draft class, is there any position that you feel better for one way or the other?
Well, the thing about it is what they're probably going to do now is you're going to lean on your coaches a little bit about, and I'm talking about I'm looking more at the defensive side of the ball. Maybe I'm in the minority here real quick about these defensive tackles. I think they're actually a pretty good group in the draft. I know there's not the top guy up there. We've seen Alabama. I mean, Barmore's probably on everybody's list and stuff like that. we've gone through that second, third, fourth round, and I mean, there's some quality guys there. I wouldn't be opposed to having some of those kids come in and play that nose tackle spot and be just fine. But I think if you're a Cowboy fan, you've got to then. We always like to connect the dots with Dan Quinn and that crew, and okay, what players did he have? Who he have in Seattle? Okay, who did he have in Atlanta? I was asking some scouts this morning about Kazee, the safety that everybody's got the Cowboys tied to. First 3 years, man, guy was super aggressive, super after it, ball hawking type guy. Last year, played not to get hurt, and what happened to him? He got hurt. Yep. So there's all kinds of things that I think now it's going to turn into familiarity, and like Bucky says, it's musical chairs when you're a guy and you're thinking, okay, I don't have a job, and so okay, where am I going to go? I need to go someplace where I have some familiarity with the coach who might take care of me. Joe Witt might take care of a Kazee or somebody like that. Again, coming off a Achilles injury, a lot of positive things. He is a true cover 3 free safety. Now, Neal on the other side, his teammate, that guy is a strong safety. So to me, I'm not going that route. I'm trying to find a true free. And if you want to connect the dots with Atlanta's Kazee, who was at San Diego State, who was a corner, who was converted into a safety, connect the dots. That might be a good one for you to start with.
Yeah, I think, Brian, you're right on it. I would expect to see a bunch of Falcons defectees find their way to Dallas, but they'll find it at the right price because you waited out. Okay, Keanu Neal, go see what's out there for you. Oh, you can't find a home? Maybe we can find a spot for you and make it work. Same thing with, I think it's Ricardo Allen and Damontae Kazee. Those guys know the system. It allows you to really get a jump start on what you want to do. And I know they attempted it last year with Clinton-Dix. It's a little different because the defense is different. Yep. This would be players coming out of the same system going to coaches that know them, that coached them as recently as last year. I think there's something. I think the one guy that I would keep an eye on, that I'm fascinated what his free agency ends up looking like, and that would be former LSU standout Patrick Peterson, because there's conversation about Pat P moving inside to play safety. It's not the easiest move. I don't think he necessarily has the juice anymore to play corner, but I would be intrigued by him playing free safety at this stage of his career. I think he still has a lot to offer if he'll tackle, because he's never really been a tackler. If he'll tackle, I think he has a lot to offer.
Yeah, that's Bucky. It's real quick, Dave. I know you're going to make a point about this, but in radio, I have a group called the Gang of Seven. They're my 7 general managers that are kind of working the shadows for me. And I was talking to them about Patrick Peterson. They think that there's enough market for Patrick Peterson to still play corner, that he might not be on the Charles Woodson transition train or Rod Woodson transition train or any of those guys that move from corner to safety later in their career. They feel like that there's still enough of a market for him as a corner that he might not make that transition. But you're absolutely right, Bucky. That's one that I would clearly work on right now.
The corner positions.
I mean,
what was that, Dave?
No, go ahead, Kyle.
I was just
go ahead.
I was just going to say the corner position might turn out to be a little bit more of a need than safety, because we do have some Cowboys breaking news here on the draft show for those of you who are watching live. So your buddy Mike Garofalo from the NFL Network, Bucky Brooks, tweeting out 3 minutes ago, Bengals agree to terms on a 3-year contract with former Dallas Cowboys corner Chidobe Awuzie, source says, since he continuing to make moves on defense. So Chidobe seemingly on his way out. That one a report from the NFL Network. So we might unpack that a little bit, and we might talk about how there's a.
Are we broken? Are we broke?
What was
that?
Are
we broken up about that?
No, we're not.
No, not really. It was kind of expected.
Am I the one? I didn't get the rose on The Bachelor last night. Like, I'm just trying to figure out if I should be broken up. I'm trying to figure out what my reaction should be to Cheeto. Cheeto going to the Bengals.
I'm gonna go ahead and pat myself and pat us all on the back, because we've been saying.
Pat me on the back.
No, you deserve it too. We've been saying for weeks, like, Cheeto's going to get a bigger, better deal than a lot of people would have guessed, and the fact that he's signing it before free agency even opens is a testament to that fact.
How much was the money for?
It wasn't specified
we don't have
yet.
the figures yet.
Oh, okay, because they overpaid for Trey Hendrickson, so
yes, they did.
Bengals are just out there just spitting money out like the ATM.
I thought Carl Lawson was a better player myself.
Much better. I can't understand. They paid big money for Trey Hendrickson.
Well, they let
silly stuff happens during free agency, man.
They let Will Johnson walk. Is that what his name was? The other corner that was in Cincy? I can't remember what his name was.
William Jackson.
William Jackson. That's what it was.
William Jackson from Houston.
Yes. Yeah. They let him walk as well. So
former first rounder.
Yeah. So I mean, they're making some moves as well. But we're gonna take our quick break here on the DallasCowboys.com Draft Show. When we come back, we've got 65 Twitter on the 20 questions to choose from. That's going to be a tough to nail down, and we'll probably kind of continue unpacking this Cheeto news when we return on the DallasCowboys.com Draft Show.
Sometimes nothing beats a classic. Miller Lite, the original light beer, brewed with great taste and only 96 calories, available for delivery. Celebrate responsibly. Miller Brewing Company, Milwaukee, Wisconsin. 96 calories, 3.2 carbs per 12 ounces.
We're back with a tasty treat that's sweeping airwaves and taste buds. It's new Dr. Pepper and Cream Soda. Let's take a listen.
Dr. Pepper and Cream Soda's here. A new combo that's music to my ears, okay. Let's play. Cream Soda and Dr. Pepper time. Pour it in a glass of ice.
Music to my ears and mouth. New Dr. Pepper and Cream Soda.
A delicious duet.
Hey, Cowboys fans, if you're thinking about attending a game this season, visit CowboysTravel.com to book your travel package today. Stay at the team hotel, have dinner with a Cowboys legend, and experience AT&T Stadium's exclusive VIP Owners Club. Also, tour the Star, get autographs from your favorite players, and talk X's and O's with me, Mickey Spagnola. The official travel partner of the Dallas Cowboys will take care of all your travel needs. Visit CowboysTravel.com.
There's nothing as unique as our eyes, which is why Essilor pioneers ways to make lenses as unique as you. Verilux for super sharp vision, Essential Blue for protection, and Crizal for freedom from glare. 3 cutting-edge solutions in a single unique lens. So whatever your needs, insist on Essilor. Visit your local Essilor experts and find the perfect lens for you. See more, do more, Essilor.
Sometimes nothing beats a classic. Miller Lite, the original light beer, brewed with great taste and only 96 calories, available for delivery. Celebrate responsibly. Miller Brewing Company, Milwaukee, Wisconsin. 96 calories, 3.2 carbs per 12 ounces.
This is the DallasCowboys.com Draft Show.
Back here on the DallasCowboys.com Draft Show, as always, presented by Miller Lite. Glad you're with us. Brian Broaddus, Bucky Brooks, David Hellman. I'm Kyle Yeomans. Time now for some Twitter on the 20.
Twitter on the 20.
Chris Beam, as always, in the back doing fantastic work. And I just have to give a shout out to all those draft nerds out there that are watching and listening to our show and their interaction on Twitter. I've got close to 70 questions for Twitter on the 20 this week, which is just unbelievable to me.
Thank you, guys. Appreciate
70
that. Thank you.
questions? Are you kidding me? This is awesome. I mean, we could do an entire show on this, and maybe we'll have to at some point. But got plenty to talk about here on Twitter on the 20. I'm going to start things off with we talk about improving the defense. And basically, it kind of goes back into what we were talking about in that first segment, but this comes from Speaking Dim Boys on Twitter. It says, when we commit to improving the defense, obviously isn't in free agency, so can we commit the 10th pick, 44th pick, 3rd and 4th round picks to premium defenders and get developmental offensive tackle in the later rounds? This goes against kind of what we talked about last week as well, a potential of maybe spending high premium picks. Bucky, I know you were on that bandwagon as well on offensive tackle early. Is there a chance that you find an offensive tackle that late in the draft this year?
I mean, potentially you're looking at the same kind of situation that you had last year. I mean, when you draft an offensive tackle late, like, you're not getting one of the premier guys that is a plug-and-play guy. And so when you take a developmental guy, you're talking about 2 or 3 years before they're really ready to play and play at a high level. I think it's uncommon. I can't remember the last late round offensive tackle to emerge as a guy. Like I know Jason Peters went from being an undrafted free agent tight end to emerging as a Pro Bowl tackle, but that's an uncommon situation. You just don't see that happen often.
Yeah,
go ahead, Brian.
Yeah, no, I mean, I do think there's some guys late, and maybe there's a guy that you can develop. I'm just going to throw a name out there. I watched this guy, Walker Little from Stanford.
Yeah.
He's a guy that has been kind of banged up. He hurt his knee against against Northwestern a while back, and then now he's sitting out because of the COVID. He went out because of the COVID, but that's the type of guy you're kind of thinking about. You know, maybe a guy that kind of was banged up. He sat out because of COVID. You know, people are going to have to go back in their notes. The guy's 6'7", 320 pounds.
It's huge.
Maybe you don't have a great feel for him, and he might fall through the cracks, but that's one of those guys that you think, okay, there's some talent there. I just kind of like keep an eye on guys like that. Try and look for those guys in that fourth round. That I'm not saying look at the 6th and 7th round, but I'm sure in the NFL history there's a 6th round tackle or something. I trust me, I know there's one out there.
Yeah.
But maybe keep a guy. Kind of look at your board when you're building it and see where the Walker Little guys fall and those kinds of things. I think that's where you can find that guy that could definitely help you on a day 2 type of a situation.
I like that, Brian.
I tend to. I don't dislike that at all, for the record. And I mean, if they wait until like the 4th round to draft an offensive tackle, I won't be super upset about it. I do tend to agree with Bucky. There's a handful of positions where if you're drafting him outside the top 100, then the odds are against you that he's ever going to be amazing. I think I've brought it up before.
You got to pick at 99. Just go ahead and make it then, and you'll be okay.
That's totally fine. I mean, we all know, Richard Sherman's going to the Hall of Fame. That doesn't mean you should count on finding all-pro cornerbacks in the 5th round of the draft.
Sure.
It's not a good strategy. But again, I am bullish on Tyron Smith and Lyle Collins. I feel very good that they'll be able to play the vast majority of the season for you. The problem, oh no, Bucky just laughed.
The vast majority. Tyron Smith has been hurt every year since 2016. Like,
hey, there is a big difference, my friend.
Come on, 7. Come on, 7.
Big difference between missing 3 games and missing 14 games. That, you can't even deny.
I got it. So you know what I got? Dave. You're the guy that likes to work Monday through Thursday. You don't like to work Friday. Friday's not in your work schedule.
Hell yeah, I'm a millennial.
We'll just take a mandatory game off because we're load managing Tyron Smith. So
old Krusty is back here.
We'll randomly pick these 3 games that he's going to miss.
You and Brian are the guys that are like, you're not really working unless you're in the office all day Saturday and during holidays too. Y'all are going to burn yourselves out. That's why Brian's trying to go to the lake at 57 years old. Get out of here.
Gosh.
The point being, I'm mad again. It's fine. They're going to be whatever. They're going to be fine, I think. And either way, the overall point I wanted to make is that if you're just drafting defenders to say you're drafting defenders, you're going against the spirit of this whole thing. Like, look at the value that's available to you in each individual pick. If Rashawn Slater is far and away your best option at 10, you should draft him. If Jenkins, the Oklahoma State guy, is there for you at 44 and you think he's loads better than everybody else, you should draft him. Like, you can't just be like, we need defenders, so our first 4 picks need to be defenders. That's not how this works.
Yeah.
I would even look at Elijah Vera Tucker at 10. Because I just think that Elijah Vera Tucker can play.
Yeah,
he can play outside. He can play inside. We talk about the guard position being a question mark. Why not upgrade? If you're gonna pay the $1 million baby like you paid Dak Prescott, I want to put him in bubble wrap so he doesn't get touched.
Yeah.
And so if you're gonna make that commitment, you're paying $42 million for your quarterback. Then you need to make sure that he's upright. I don't want to necessarily go and buy a Bentley and put it on spare tires. Like, put some rims on it, make it look nice or whatever. Like, make sure that he is protected so you can score, because their best defense is going to be their offense. I don't think they can find enough firepower this year to make that defense a top 10 defense. But I do know if they put 30 to 35 points up, it makes it a lot easier just to rush the pass when you don't have to worry about the running game.
Just go ahead and draft Kyle Pitts, and everything will be fine.
Everything's going to work itself out.
If you feel like that, control the middle. Like, why not? Just go all the way in. All offense, all gas, no brakes.
Bucky continues.
Sark. Get him, Sark. Get him, Sark.
Bucky continues spitting out these metaphors, and then he also had a bit of a spit take earlier whenever Dave provided his answer, I guess. And I still can't get over the reaction.
I don't know how Bucky and I became mortal enemies. Radio.
We're not adversaries.
Oh,
You're just taking a very conservative approach. Last year I watched you guys. You were like, "Hey, let's
40
now
burger.
you want to play defense and punt."
Yeah.
Like, what are we doing?
Yeah.
I'll tell you what we're doing.
Exactly
I watched
what
DK Metcalf. I watched DK Metcalf and Christian Kirk get 5 yards behind this defense every week. That's what happened.
You're not wrong. You're not wrong at all. All right, this next question comes from Mr. Maya. I hope I said that name wrong, or right. I hope I said it right. M-I-A-H. I don't want to say it wrong. Does the signing of Noah Brown, as Noah Brown has agreed to terms for a one-year deal with the Cowboys, reduce a chance that we look for a late-round receiver in this draft? And he put Jalen Darden, of course, my favorite, North Texas, Darden to Dallas, everybody, or Daz Newsome, etc. These different late-round receivers. Brian, do you think bringing back a Noah Brown maybe stifles that a little bit, as he could be your fourth receiver?
Yeah, I think that they have to think. And then Cedric Wilson was also given his tender as well. So, yeah, I think that there's always going to be about depth. Will they use draft picks? I don't think so. Unless somebody me personally, though, if you did something where you moved on from a receiver, say you moved on from Michael Gallup, say someone tried to blow you away with a deal right now to get him, but like Bucky's talking about, this receiver class is pretty deep. I don't know if anybody will blow you away with an offer for somebody you currently have. I think if the Cowboys were going to do something, me personally, I would go get somebody from the law firm of Moore and Moore, our Ole Miss guy, and then also our Purdue guy. Because to me, the shorter type play, Tutu Atwell's another one. This league is going to where the smaller type of guy, the inside players, maybe you could kick CD outside, but if you had a guy that was a little bit shifty and can do a lot of different things. But yeah, I think that these signings, I think that kind of takes them out of the market right now for drafting a wide receiver.
Dave?
I would just throw out that at the end of the day, they do have 10 picks, and the majority of those are day 3. Mm-hmm. You know, if they like a guy and they don't want to let him get to free agency, maybe they draft him. I know he wasn't a pick. He wasn't a draft pick, but I'm thinking about Jalen Guyton a year or two ago.
No, another North Texas guy.
If they love a guy like that, and they would, kind of like Ben DiNucci last year, like you'd rather draft him than try to bid on him. Maybe you do that. But, yeah, I think, Noah and Cedric both being here for this season, unless something crazy happens, I think you could probably rule out a big pick being spent on receiver.
Bucky?
I'm with that. No, I would think that it would be a day 3 guy, height, weight, speed guy that can play special teams, because eventually Noah Brown and Cedric Wilson, that's where their contributions are going to come in. And so you have to kind of get some guys that are up and ready to replace those guys when they move on. And maybe they're able to offer something that if you look, you're like, okay, I can see him maybe being a natural fill-in for Michael Gallup as a one-dimensional type player on the edge who also has special teams value. It just kind of depends on how they view Michael Gallup and how they view not 2021, but how do they view what their roster could look like in 2022.
Yeah, they get ready. They're going to draft Waddle at 10, so as we say.
Oh, man.
Let's go. 50 burgers, baby.
Somewhere Jeff Kavanaugh is smiling. But
why not?
Why not? Bucky's
okay.
Why not?
All right. Why not?
Even though I wouldn't draft a wide receiver in the first round.
I wouldn't either.
I would say I would maybe Kyle Pitts at 10. I would be intrigued. You can get your wide receiver in the second or third round. Come on, Brian. There are 8 million of them.
I'm with you, man. Hey, come on. I came in the same program you did.
Yeah, there you go. Next question comes from aspiring journalist on Twitter. Give him some pub since he's an aspiring
journalist. Do folks not have names on the Twitter accounts?
No, this one actually says aspiring journalist.
Seriously.
The name and the handle have aspiring journalist on there.
Come on, man.
I don't know. He's got a really cool picture.
An aspiring journalist, put your name out there.
He's got
put
a good
your name
picture
on
out
your
there.
Twitter handle, man.
So
ask the question, Kyle.
Yeah, Joe Thomas leaving. Does that decrease, or it does? He's saying it does decrease the depth at linebacker, but does it increase the chance of drafting a linebacker in the first 2 rounds? In your opinion, Brian?
Yeah, I would get ready. I mean, I know there's a lot of people and stuff like that. We've talked about Parsons and people, Bolden from Missouri, Coromora, Notre Dame. I think people think maybe him as a safety and stuff like that. I would not discount a linebacker here. And I'm only doing this because we need to figure out, if you're a Cowboy fan, you need to figure out what the contract situation is for Leighton Vander Esch. Dave told you last week that's a $9 million buy right there on that 5th-year option in May. You've got health issues with Jalen Smith. He plays well sometimes, other times he doesn't. They don't have a whole heck of a lot of depth there. I think that at the end of the day, I wouldn't be surprised if they took corner, linebacker, corner. It's some combination is, I think, going to be the first 2 picks, to be honest with you. Yeah.
I would like to see them double up at some point at linebacker. I would like to see them get one maybe in the 2nd and get another guy that can play maybe in the 4th. With the Leighton Vander Esch deal, I think with Jalen Smith and Vander Esch, I think they both are question marks. $9 million on the option for Vander Esch, considering his injury history, to me would be a little rich. And then with Jalen Smith, you just never know which one is going to show up. And so I think you have to prepare to get some run and chase guys.
I do too.
Yeah, I was a fan of Joe Thomas. I thought for how they got him and what they asked him to do, that you need guys like that on your team.
Yep.
Like they can step in and start, and they can play a lot of special teams. Blah blah blah. Awesome. Losing Joe Thomas is not what makes linebacker a need. Not knowing what you have in your 2. But that's not the issue for me.
So, going to ask one more question, and I kind of want this to kind of trickle into the final segment here as well. But it comes from Call Me Krupa on Twitter, and this question says, are we wasting too much time talking about top safety and top defensive tackle prospects in this class, knowing how this team in the past has historically approached these positions? Should we instead be focusing on day 3 names at each of those 2 positions? So that's the question that I'm going to pose. We're going to take a break. When we come back, I'll ask it again, and we'll kind of talk about some of those names that if the Cowboys elected to go offensive tackle and corner early on, then safety and D tackle would then follow later on. When we come back here on the DallasCowboys.com Draft Show.
Sometimes nothing beats a classic. Miller Lite, the original light beer, brewed with great taste and only 96 calories, available for delivery. Celebrate responsibly. Miller Brewing Company, Milwaukee, Wisconsin. 96 calories, 3.2 carbs per 12 ounces.
The Cowboys way, where 16 Hall of Famers and 5 championships shows us what success looks like. Where turkey is always the second best part of Thanksgiving Day. Where we are all defined by one single thing, the star. Where we as fans know it's our job to keep the tradition going. Bank of America is proud to be the official bank of the Dallas Cowboys and to support the quest of living life the Cowboys way.
Copyright 2020, Bank of America Corporation.
Honey, big news.
Gary, are you okay?
Oh, I'm not Gary anymore. I'm Jackie Flash.
What?
See, I want the latest smartphone, but the best deals are only for new customers. So, to get a new customer deal, I changed my name to Jackie Flash.
Okay, but the best smartphone deals at AT&T are for everyone, new and existing customers.
That's huge. Then guess who's getting a deal?
Is it Jackie Flash?
Jackie Flash.
It's not complicated. At AT&T, our best smartphone deals are for everyone. Restrictions apply. Visit att.com for details.
Before there was a draft, you could size up a cowboy by 3 simple factors: the crease in his hat, the bend of his brim, and his unbending attitude. A man Stetson didn't just protect him from what life threw at him, it projected a rugged, unstoppable spirit. Stetson hats are still American-made with pride right here in Texas. They're still the unofficial crown of all self-respecting cowboys, and Stetson is proud to be on the field with America's team. Find a retailer nearest you at Stetson.com/Cowboys.
Sometimes nothing beats a classic. Miller Lite, the original light beer, brewed with great taste and only 96 calories. Available for delivery. Celebrate responsibly. Miller Brewing Company, Milwaukee, Wisconsin. 96 calories, 3.2 carbs per 12 ounces.
This is the DallasCowboys.com Draft Show.
Back here on the DallasCowboys.com Draft Show. Glad you're with us. Bucky Brooks, Brian Broaddus, David Hellman. I'm Kyle Yeoman, trying to keep it together for at least 15 more minutes. Chris Beam in the back doing fantastic work here from the SWBC Mortgage Studios, as always. And I put that question out there prior to going to break. Are we talking too much about premium defensive tackle and premium safety prospects early in this draft? And we've talked a lot about both of those positions, but it's very likely that, given the historical past of this Cowboys organization, that they neglect that position early in this draft class, or they just simply don't want to invest draft capital in there at all. So, Dave, whenever it comes to later round prospects, one, should we be talking about those names? And two, are there any names that stick out to you?
Well, this guy sounds a lot like me, because I'm usually the one that's saying, just tell me what the Cowboys are going to do. That's what I care about. But at the same time, the purpose of the show is to investigate and educate. Just because the Cowboys don't care about those positions doesn't mean that we shouldn't talk about it, because Lord knows we like to bang those drums and make ourselves feel smart later on when Antoine Winfield Jr. balls out for a Super Bowl champion team. Yeah, so the answer to my answer to that question is no. Just because the Cowboys aren't going to do it doesn't mean we shouldn't at least say, hey, here are the guys that they're ignoring for some reason.
Yeah, I think, guys, that to me, the element of let's not take a defensive tackle and let's not take a safety is now out of the building. I think the previous coaching staff they will do a 30 for 30 on all the problems that they had trying to find defensive players when it was set up for them to draft defensive players. So I think with a different element in the building, Dan Quinn, Joe Witt, I think that there will be a different direction there. They will have a clear understanding of what they want. They're not going to want to coach orphans, that nobody wants. They're not going to do that. They're going to want to coach real football players. And I think that the attitudes for the Cowboys, the defensive tackle and at safety will change.
That's a very positive outlook, though, Brian, compared to, I think, a lot of Cowboys Nation. I think it's still a lot of people are looking at this front office and saying that the Jones family's the one that really makes the decision. They're the one that makes the phone call. But there is a lot more that goes into it than just them making a decision, right?
Yeah, the former defensive coordinator wanted nothing to do with Jalen Ramsey. He was a defensive coordinator, wanted nothing to do with Jalen Ramsey. He would rather have Ezekiel Elliott, and he said so. He said so. He didn't think, though, that there's discussions they had about a T.J. Watt. There are different things, different discussions that they've had about players that have gone the wrong way for them. I'm not blaming every single thing on them, but there's a lot of things that you could point to that direction that their attitudes about it came from their defensive coaches.
Yeah, I know we like to bang on them for bypassing Jalen Ramsey, but Ezekiel Elliott, they won a lot of games with Ezekiel Elliott toting the load the first couple years. That was the formula. Now, I would say it fell apart when the offensive line began to kind of fall apart and you started losing some of those guys to attrition. That was more, I would say, the issue, not necessarily Jalen not being there or whatever. But
they didn't fight for the guy, Bucky. Your defensive coaches, and I understand you have to there's give and take in the room. I appreciate that. I never got the impression that they really fought hard to get Jalen Ramsey here. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah, they may want to play complimentary ball. Sometimes you want to play nice in the sandbox, Brian. You don't have to always throw sand at one another in those debates. Sometimes you do. You know what?
Yeah, you do. You got to fight for your positions. You got to fight for your side. You know what I'm saying?
It's true. Yeah, you want to have somebody there.
To answer the latter part of that question, particularly, y'all know how I love my safeties. Do y'all have any more day 3 type of guys that stand out to you?
Day 3, like this.
I'll tell you what, I don't know if it's, I don't know. To me, I would since you got a couple of like those compensatories at 3 and then at 4. I know I mentioned Gillespie from Missouri is a guy. Bucky's talked about the Florida State kid,
Nasruddin.
Where does Holland fit in, the Oregon safety?
Some people like him a lot.
See, that's what I'm saying. I'm trying to get a gauge. I know I've got Morig, Grant, Holland. I know I've got those guys in an upper level, but in that third round, I'm kind of looking at Gillespie. Sherwood from Auburn is a guy that I'm looking at right there. So, I think there's names there. I think they need more of a true free. Let's see what happens with Kazee. That might be something that they say, okay, well, here's going to be our free, but that maybe won't keep them from drafting one of those guys that, like I was talking about, again, Gillespie from Missouri, Nasruddin from Florida State. I don't know where Washington fits in here, the TCU kid. Will people ding him? Will people ding him because of his height?
Yes.
Is he more of a third, fourth round guy? Jeff Kavanaugh will tell you he's one of his top guys. And you see these guys all differently, but I do believe there's some names there. You should not pass on these kids we're talking about right now.
Question, Brian, what do you think about the Texas kid, Stern? Like, what is your opinion on Caden Stern?
Yeah, you know what? I haven't watched him, Bucky, yet. I mean, I'm working down through that list, and I'm trying to, pick guys off. I'm into these four, I got a list. I'm not going to lie to you. I'm using Dane Brugler's list. Dane and I've talked to him about his list of guys. And where Dane kind of had some of his guys ranked, I'm just kind of following along on his list.
That makes sense.
And he doesn't have – so I'm 150 some odd players in, and he's not even on that list yet. And so I know he ran the other day in the 4.4s. Yep. There's some people that really like him. I haven't personally seen him myself. He's a guy I got to get to in the next couple of days.
No, it's funny because, I think safety position, the beauty is all in the eye of the beholder. When I look at him, one, he was a heavily recruited kid. So you pay attention to him because his freshman year was probably his best year at UT. You see him move around. He plays center field position. He comes down. I would say the biggest thing that you worry about him is, will he be a consistent tackler in terms of a thumper? Will he thump? Will he do some of those things? But movement skills and athleticism, he has all the traits that you look for typically for your center field player. I just wonder how he's valued. He's hot and cold whenever I ask people about him. Some people love him, some people hate him, and then sometimes there's a bit of the quote-unquote Texas stigma that exists in terms of their players being perceived to be soft or coddled or however you want to shape that narrative.
I'm with you, Bucky. I talked to a scout the other day about him because I saw what he ran, and then the scout told me, you're going to like him. I mean, and I'm not riding the fence on this. There's some things about him you're really going to like, and there's other things that you're going to not even want to deal with him at all. So I'm interested to see where he fits then. Is he in that Gillespie, Washington, Nasruddin, Holland, Morig? Where does he fit among all those guys?
There's a bunch of names down, I think, later in that list. And you mentioned Gillespie from Missouri, but, I mean, I don't think you're looking at Divine Diablo as a top 3-round guy. He might be a 4th-round guy.
That's who I was about to bring up, Kyle. Hell yeah.
That's a good name. Virginia Tech.
And he's a quality player.
He's more strong myself. Yeah, no, he is. He is. And I know Bucky likes, I think Bucky, I saw on a crawl from the NFL Network the other day, I was looking up at the board. Cisco, you have Cisco up in that area, right? The
Andre Cisco from Syracuse. I actually, I just wrote his name down. He is someone that I think, it's so subjective when it comes to the safety position because depending on what you're looking for, how you're going to play him, and your preferred style at the position. There's some coaches that like to have a cast-off corner who has some skills that can play in the slot maybe while also being a free safety type. Others want the big thumper to be able to come down in the box and play like a pseudo linebacker. A lot of it depends on how you want to play. Yeah, so when I think about Dallas and this system, in your head you have this visual. Cam Chancellor's the box safety, Earl Thomas is the free safety. You go and look at what he did in Atlanta.
Yeah.
Keanu Neal is the box safety. DeMonte Kazee and all these other guys, Brian Allen, they played free safety over top. So it's a very distinct look to how he wants to play. And I think I would feel better if I knew, how does he view Donovan Wilson?
Yeah.
Because if I had a better idea on, does he view Donovan Wilson as a guy that is, hey, let's position him in the box because he will thump. Or does he see him as, oh, no, we can get away with him as a rangy numbers-to-numbers player, and we need to find another thumper on the inside.
Yeah, that's
I just
a good
wanted
point.
to throw in that I thought oh, sorry, Kyle.
No, go for it, Dave.
But I did Brian, I agree with you. Divine Diablo is he's huge. He definitely, he strikes you as like a box guy, but he went to Mobile, and obviously, like, nobody's in a worse situation at the Senior Bowl than DBs, and I thought he held his own pretty well in those practices.
Absolutely did. Yeah, sure did.
So that's definitely, that's a name that if you're 6'3", 225, like, I can't help it. Because Cam Chancellor's like one of my favorite players of the last decade. I love that big, like, 6'2", 6'3" safety who just murders people. So I'm all in favor of that.
Well, and again, he's an ACC guy. He's an ACC guy, so it might be a thing where the Cam Chancellor, Virginia, it might be Virginia Tech. Here's our path. Here we go.
All right, I've got a couple other ACC guys I want to talk about, though, Brian, and I'm going to throw them your direction. I hope you've maybe watched these guys. So Trill Williams from Syracuse. Have you watched him yet?
No, I have not.
Okay, what about Paris Ford from Pittsburgh? Have you watched him?
I have not.
Okay.
I'm drafting Trill. I'm drafting Trill just on his name alone.
Yeah,
honestly.
it's pretty awesome.
True and real.
Bucky, have you seen either one of those guys as well?
I've heard stuff on Paris Ford, but I haven't seen them enough. Like how down in the bin are you, Kyle? How deep in the bushel? How deep in the bushel?
I've got Paris Ford as my 12th guy, as my 12th safety. So I'm a little bit further down on him. I liked Trill Williams a lot, and for a lot of the same reasons that Dave likes Divine Diablo, because he's 6'2", 200 pounds, and I think he's rangy. He was the opposite the opposite safety as Andre Cisco at Syracuse. So they were teammates. They played in the back end together. Okay. And Andre Cisco didn't impress me a whole lot. I have him just as my 10th safety. So I have him a little bit further down because he gives up big plays like a runny nose. I mean, it's unbelievable how many big plays he gave up. And I think Trill Williams cleaned up a lot of what Andre Cisco did. So I kind of put Trill Williams a little bit higher up. He's actually in my top 10, and I might be alone in that regard. But I liked him a lot when I watched him.
I'll tell you a guy I didn't like. I'll tell you a guy I didn't like, and this is from my school, Jacoby Stevens.
Nice.
I was not impressed at all with Jacoby Stevens.
Wow.
Yeah, I was not impressed at all with him.
He's a Senior Bowl guy,
don't play him at safety. Please don't play him at safety.
Where would you play him?
I down by the line, like try to move him to linebacker or have him be like a utility guy, like maybe a dime package sort of situation. Like I mean, he hits well, and honestly, he's got a nose for the ball. Like he's around the ball when it gets turned over, but I don't trust him in coverage even in the slightest little bit. Sorry, I'm sorry. Hey,
Tiger on Tiger crime.
I have
we have a bad year after we win the title. We ready to get rid of all the players.
Brian will attest. Like me and Brian are honest about LSU players. Like we don't pump it up if it doesn't deserve it.
We told you should draft that Patrick Queen. We told you that Patrick Queen could play. Nobody listened to us.
Yeah, well, just about everybody that got drafted off of last year's team turned out to be a badass. I don't think that's a coincidence.
To be fair, there were like 17 first-round picks out of last year's LSU roster. So, you're going to get a lot of that. They're going to hit.
They did win the national title.
Yeah, I don't know about Chase on Dave. Chase on didn't win all that great.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah, you're right. Hey, jury's still out.
It's a long career. It's a long career. Any other names?
Caleb Chasen is mad.
Any other names we want to throw out there in terms of the safety position before we wrap things up, gentlemen?
Draft Richie Grant.
Richie Grant is
that's not a late round guy.
Bucky, have you?
No, he's not late round. We don't have to worry about late round if we use pick 44 on a starter.
I'd be down.
We can just cut this this conversation can be made irrelevant if they just invest in the position. Or honestly, going back to the first segment, And I don't want to. I hate to try to like get people's hopes up, but that is a position where I could see them investing in a better free agent. Not Earl Thomas, not like prime Earl Thomas, but yeah, if they get Kazee, if they get Allen or Keanu Neal, there's a couple other guys on the market whose names are not coming to my mind, but like they could invest there and set themselves up to where it's not as big of a need as it looks like right now. That wouldn't surprise me at all.
I could see that. Brian, you were going to throw a name out there.
Yeah, I don't know, Bucky. Have you seen the kid? Is it Hufanga from USC?
Yeah, I've seen him. He's a playmaker, but
yeah,
I don't know how disciplined and detailed he is when it comes to coverage. Like he comes and runs around and makes a lot of plays on the ball and hits and splash plays, but I don't know how you best utilize him as a pro.
Yeah, see, I think this is a guy when you're going to hear his name, and he's going to be one of those guys that's end up being a core special teams player for somebody. I mean, he's extremely tough. He's always around the football. You see him play near the line. His reactions, I think, are pretty good for a safety, because there's times where you'll see him jump routes and play underneath and stuff. But I think he's one of those guys, if people are talking about him, it's going to be initially as a special teams guy and then try and work his way into the safety. That's one of those day 3 guys, as I was going back through my notes, that you might keep an eye on. He might get drafted in day 2. I'm more of a day 3 guy with him, but keep an eye on him. Again, he had shoulder surgery January of 2020, so it might affect him his way on a medical, but he's a name that people have been mentioning.
I like it. Lots of day 3 potentials and late round options for the Cowboys when it comes to safety. I don't think double dipping at safety is out of the question as well. They could go draft a Richie Grant or maybe even Elijah Molden, who could be transformed into a safety from corner out of Washington at 44, and then go later on and draft a safety again. Because like Dave said earlier about wide receiver, if there's a safety late in the draft that you like, hey, why not? Take a pick. Let's try and find some depth at that position, because that's something the Cowboys have not had in quite some time. But that's going to do it for us here on the DallasCowboys.com Draft Show. Special thanks to Chris Beam in the back. Catch these guys next Tuesday, 10 a.m. Central Time. Continue to bring in the fire as we're closing in on a month until the NFL Draft. But for Chris Beam, for Bucky Brooks, Brian Broaddus, David Hellman, I'm Kyle Yeoman saying so long from the Star in Frisco. We'll see you next week on the Draft Show.
This has been a production of DallasCowboys.com and the Dallas Cowboys Football Club.
How about this, Cowboys? Yeah!